What's up, Fire fam? My name's Kiahonfire, and welcome back to another Conan Exiles video. Today I'm going to be going over some of my very helpful tips for pro or new players that may not know this information. So let's get into the video. So my first tip is actually for transport of heavy goods. Now, moving things around in Conan Exiles can be a bit of a bother, especially when you have over-encumbered inventory. As you can see, I'm very slow, and this is going to get very old if I have to go like this speed everywhere. But there is a hack on this. If you get a pair of daggers, and then you kind of line yourself up with the box across that you want to put it in, or the container you want to put it in, there is a special key for the dagger. It is control for me on PC that you can do this flip that will move you very far across, and as you can see, 2 flips has gotten me to the box I wanted to be at. So now I can transport all of my goods into this box with only 2 movements. So that's ideal. The only thing with this though, you have to be facing backwards to do this. You cannot face the other way around, so you do have to angle yourself pretty good, but it gets the job done quicker than any other move as well. You could use the sweep on the daggers as well, but I find this is way more, it will take more stamina to get where you want to be, plus the actual backflip does more coverage than this, so I tend to just like to use the backflip, because then you can go all the way over really quickly, and then you don't have to be sweeping around and hitting your thralls and etc. You can just flip your way there. So that's a really handy way to move heavy objects in Conan Exiles without much effort. Now, the fluid press can be quite an underrated thing, but it's actually really important because it becomes useful in many ways. The first way I'm going to talk about, if you have an overload of coal or a lot of coal in your area, you can actually put coal in here and make it into tar. So if I was to grab my coal from earlier and put it in here, you can see it's slowly going to make it into tar. So if I have lots of coal, then I can make it into something more useful like tar. So it will take 25 coal per 1 tar, so do bear that in mind. It is a little bit expensive, but if you're in a pinch, then this is a good way to get tar out really quickly. Another thing you should be doing early game as well is putting down fish traps and getting the fish out of them. This is because we can now use it for a much more useful recipe. So if we are going to use the fluid press, we can put in all of these fish, or just a couple of these fish, to make oil. Now, oil actually burns a lot longer than coal, and so does dry wood. So this is an easy way to get oil out of your useless fish. So you can just use the savoury and exotic, or you can use the unappetizing. But usually you kind of want to save the unappetizing fish to make ichor in the campfire, fireplace, or anything like that. But to give you an example, if you were to put in the unappetizing fish, they will give you 1 for 1, so that is 1 oil per 1 appetizing fish. So that is very good for oil. And then you have the savoury fish will give you 2 oil for 10 fish, and then the exotic fish will give you 1 oil for 10 fish. So you can see the unappetizing fish is the best to grind in here. But if you just have these fish and you don't have anything to do with them, then it's good just to plough them down into oil and then do your thing with them. And as you can see, if you do end up saving these unappetized fish, you can burn it into ichor in here, which is used in a hell of a lot of recipes. And another thing with fluid presses, if you get useless things like heads of creatures, you can pop these in the fluid press and it will give you bones and blood and maybe some hide sometimes. As you can see, I'm getting bones and blood out of these. So if I need it for any kind of recipe or anything like bone meal or blood sausage, then I can just grind them up, and there you go, you got bones and blood to your disposal at your own home. My next tip is reduction costs on crafting stations you might not have thought that would be applicable for this. So if you were to use a armourer, blacksmith or carpenter on a artisan's table, they are going to reduce the cost of whatever is in there. So for instance, I have this very nice carpenter in here right now, and I want to craft something really expensive, the vault. Without the carpenter in there, it's very expensive. As you can see, it's going to cost me 125 steel reinforcements, 150 hardened brick, and 40 steel bars. But if I was to get any kind of tier carpenter or anything like that, for instance, today I've got a T4, then it is going to reduce the cost of this vault by a really significant amount. to the point that you can craft 2 for 1. So instead of 125 steel reinforcements, it's now going to take you 62. Instead of 150 hardened brick, it's going to take you 75. And instead of 40 steel, it's going to take you 20. So that's pretty much cut the cost down the middle. So having one of these in here is absolutely essential and handy if you want to build vaults or expensive boxes or decorations even that require the artisan table. Anything expensive, do put one of those in there and it will help you tremendously. My next tip is to do with the grindstone. Now this is a very underrated piece of equipment. It can actually grind a lot of things into a lot of things you might not expect, aka spice, salt and bone meal. So for instance, bone meal is used in a lot of recipes. All you really do is just drag the bone in. It's going to make you bone meal out of your bones. You can see 1 bone is giving us about 4 per tick. So as you can see there, 4 per tick, you get bone meal per 1 bone. So you can get lots and lots of bone meal out that way. Then if I was to use stone, or you can use crystal, but I don't really recommend using crystal because it's very expensive. You can get out salt from just grinding spare stones you have in the base. So if you want to make really good food items or soups, then you have the salt on board and you can easily get the stone for it. And last but not least, if you have things like plants, useless bits of plants you don't use and don't need, you can grind up seeds or plant fibre or any of the random plants, just not lotus seeds or things like that, or different seeds you can't use, but you can use these things, or lupine flower, if I believe right, will also make the spice as well. So useless bits of plant, grind up for spice, then you can make better meals to take to the Arctic or wherever else you would like to take it. That and it's going to keep your storage a lot cleaner, so there you go, spice. My next tip is to do with if you have really annoying bags around your base that's blocking a crafting station or whatever, you can actually move these bags instead of having to pick it up. If you build yourself something like a bit of foundation, you can literally just poof the bag away. You can toss it away with this bit of foundation. It works on any surface or whatever. As long as you have a building piece or a decoration piece, you can flick bags wherever you like and move them around to get them out the way. My next tip is about bearer thralls. Now bearer thralls are very underrated thralls indeed. You can actually get something really useful out of them if you go and hunt them around the map. This is a very common spot. I find one pretty much every single time. Desert Watch is a good spot. You can get them all over the map though. Bearers are absolutely everywhere and sometimes they will spawn every single time as well, which is really useful. But if you're to actually get rid of a bearer, they will drop something called a supply materials. Now, this is really handy because you can pick up a bunch of these and they give you random supplies. So if you were to use the box, you can see it's just given me 250 tar and 250 Highland berry bush seeds. But they can give you a range of pretty much anything. So I'll give you a quick example of what they can actually give you. So I've brought in a bunch of supply materials so you can have a look and an idea of what happens when you open a bunch of these. My first one is 500 bones. My next one is 250 iron bars and 750 berry seeds. My next one is 1,000 berry seeds and some more tar. My next one is 500 alchemic base. My next one is 500 crystal and more alchemic base. I got 500 alchemic base again and even more crystal. And then if I'm just to do this, we got wood branches here. Let's have a look at this. We got even more wood now. We got more crystal, about 1,000 just dropped out of that. More berry seeds. And bone, blood, and 50 weathered skull and feathers. This is really good, these weathered skulls, by the way, because they can be pretty difficult to pick up. So they're kind of useful if you need them for recipes. But as you can see, supply crates give a hell of a load of stuff. So they are actually worth farming out for. Go and find bearers, go and kill them, and go and get yourself a bunch. If you want more locations on where to get things like this, you can always look on the wiki because they will show you pinpoint locations bearers might actually spawn at. But this is just an example of one where they can spawn at this place, Desert Watch. There's also, if I remember right, a constant one at the Den, and there is a few in other places such as the Black Galleon outside of that. more towards Voyager's Vigil, there is always bearers that spawn there as well, every single time. So do farm them out, they will give you a lot of good stuff. My next tip is to do with brimstone. Now, brimstone can be found in a number of places. One of the best spots is in the Shattered Springs, which is over here if you wanted some reference, all the way on the western side. Now, if you actually want to farm here, you need to learn the Sandstorm Mask. This will stop the gas affecting you, but however, this is at level 30, so this is quite a ways off. But if you want to come here quicker, or have gas protection quicker than level 30 if you're early on, all you need to do is make my friend here the Altar of Set. Now, the Altar of Set can make you a Setite mask on T2, made with a few human hearts, plant fibre and light helmet padding. It works exactly like the Sandstorm Mask and will protect you from that very naughty gas over that might be really annoying. You can get it a whole 10 levels earlier than the actual Sandstorm Mask, as well as you can get those snake arrows in as well while you're here to do this kind of thing. So it's a really ideal piece to be able to get early on and use to be able to craft brimstone stuff and etc. That and snake arrows are great in game already, so having a T2 altar to set is a really good idea in general. And just to give you an example, I will wear it. So I'm going to go into the gas area now, this little hat on that I've obtained a lot earlier than before, and as you can see it works as a sandstorm mask and I'm not being affected at all. Of course, this is useful as well to get out of sandstorms. So if you're in areas with sandstorms in the way, then of course you just have this mask and it's absolutely wonderful just to have it. Now, my next tip is going to be a much more difficult one to actually take on, but if you can get it down and around, it is an absolutely great way to level up or get those pesky levels in. Doing this method in the game actually still works, so it is a handy thing to do, and it's a handy thing to do early on if you want levels like mad. However, to get this to work, you actually need something very pesky, aka a fragment of power. So you may have to go to the undead city. You can either kill a boss, or early on you can climb up to places like this and grab yourself one of these tiny little crates that will give you one fragment of power each. All you need is one. The location I'm at now is right here if you wanted to know where the fragment of power I just picked up, and I'm going to show you a few more before I show you why we need these. Another place you can get a fragment of power box is right on top of this square right here, just above the albino bat. So one can spawn right up on top of here, which is a good one to get early on. So this is right here on the map near the aviary. Another spot can be right up here in this corner right here. As you can see, it's right on top of a very tall building, but it can spawn literally right there, as small as it will be. Now this area is right here on the map, just above the citadel of the Triumphant. We're on to our next location, literally right on this slab here, can also spawn a box. It's one of the most easiest places to get one. So if you're lucky, it will spawn on this box area right here. And this is right here on the map, and it's quite easy to find because it's got a big archway. So right on that tile right there, you can find one also. Our next task is to come down to the map room where you will learn the feats of weapon oils and map room stuff, but we're not here to learn that today. We are literally just going to go to the right of the ghostly man, click E on the bookcase, and what it's going to give us is a recipe feat for the decoration skull. And this is what we are looking for. To find this area on the map, you literally have to go from the top of the archives and down into this place right here. So start here and then come down. Now what this is going to enable you to do if you get yourself an artisan's table is to craft the decorative metal skull. Now this is classed as a high kind of tier building piece. So it's going to give us a lot of experience back. So you need a fragment of power and you'll need a hardened steel bar. If you're struggling to get a hardened steel bar, you can pretty much get it from killing some Nordheimers or looting some boxes in Set City. Just keep looting them until you end up having some of these bars on you. That can be quite handy, and then you can get yourself a metal skull built. And then pretty much, you build the metal skull, you have it, And the great thing is with this is you just can break it again and again and again. So I'm going to dismantle it. It's going to give me that exact ingredient right back again. I'll put it in here, craft it really quickly up again, and then I'm going to repeat the process over and over and over and over and over again. Now, it can be a very annoying process to do, but it will give you the XP and the levels you're looking for. One craft plus destroy will give you up to 12k experience per one of these skulls being crafted and then destroyed. And of course, it's just easy way to grind XP if you were having trouble with it, because you can just keep bringing them in and out and just keep going for it. It's a really good way early on to get those levels. It might take you some time, but it is still working, and there you go, it will get you some XP. To give you an example, an experience gain, this is the equivalent of killing a gorilla over and over and over again, but without the healing potions, etc. So it's going to give you the amount of XP a gorilla would give you every time you craft one of these, and then you just keep doing it. So that's a pretty good way to get experience, if I do say so myself. It's quite a cheesy little way to get it as well. Of course, you can also do the traditional methods of just crafting really high materials, or crafting reinforcements and things like that will give you good experience, but this is a cheesy way to do it, and it's just a constant way you can do it and get experience. So if you like the video, consider giving it a like, and if you like this kind of content, consider giving the channel a subscribe. I do a lot of guides and content and updates on Conan patches, etc. And also I have a playlist down in the description down below if you'd like to check that out as well. But anyway, that's enough for me today. Thank you for watching, I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!